Alrighty people, what is going on? My name is Renegade Operative, and today I will be filling in my quota with an unscripted video talking about some old ass news. Let's not lie. This video was made to fill in the quota of my channel because I promised that people would get at least, I would say, 2 videos a week, and I didn't fill my quota, so I have to talk about something old. But I do want to mention this situation because I never got the time to sit down and really formally address my opinions on it. So during the launch of RE4 Remake, there was a content creator called Crowbcat that made a video detailing Resident Evil 4 Remake in a negative light. Let's say that title is just negative for the sake of the video. I mean, it really was. It was talking about Soul, which was the original RE4, versus Soulless, which is implying that the remake lacks character and individuality. And Crowbcat is known for making these sort of dissections, exposés on the game and how it was developed and how the original is much better. It paints the previous and former iteration in a more positive light, showing mechanics and stuff that really didn't make it over, or things that didn't really equate to the recent iteration of the game for the latter. So he did this with RE4. Obviously there's comparisons of things you can't do in Remake 4, like those weird mental midgets talking about you can't look up Ashley's skirt anymore and all that stuff. You can't see the Panzu, which at that point I talked about these people before on the channel. It's just weird to have that sort of super obsession to see a digital character naked when you could just go to Pornhub or anywhere else, or see that anywhere else, see Ashley bent over, fucked 8 ways from Sunday, and you need to see it in a Capcom game. But you know, I digress on that stuff. I talked about it long before, and it's just odd behavior in my opinion to say if this game doesn't have this, then inherently all the mechanics made for that game doesn't matter, the game is bad. Anyway, this creator decided to make this and say, hey, this is a really soulless remake compared to the original. This is the point, that is the point, it has this, it doesn't have that, etc. We know how Crowbcat works. This was by far his most disliked video of all time, I think. I think it was very, very disliked amongst people, and there's people in the comments making, you know, jokes and obviously being against the video, explaining their points. And I think the reason why is because, once again, saying that the game is soulless, lacking some character, lacking some work put into the quality behind the product, is quite frankly not true. Now you could say, hey, this remake took out this, or it's not as funny as the original. Sure, you can say that, no problem. You can have those beliefs, whatever. But in terms of the work they put into this game, trying to modernize it and make it, you know, feel good with running and walking and shooting, and those incremental updates and pairing that the original RE4 did not have, they definitely updated the mechanics to some degree. People like to go back to the original game and say, oh, it was this and that here, and then this is cut for separate ways. But I wouldn't say that Capcom completely squandered the ideals and principles behind this remake. It's definitely a much more completed game than Resident Evil 3, which cut out like large bulks and sections of that game in order to just somehow get it out and say, hey, this is the finished product. I like Resident Evil 3 Remake, I do. I think from a gameplay perspective it's a great game, but they clearly did not follow the adhesive glue that was tying more of the original together and making it a solid experience. There's a lot of beats in this game for RE4 Remake where it's like, oh, he said the line, where's everyone going, bingo, or them having all the bosses mostly intact outside of U3. And it's fine to miss certain things, but it seems they're setting up and explaining that this missed content is going to be restored anyway, from the files at least, in the Separate Ways DLC, and making them bosses and antagonists for Ada, using the other right hand to obviously fight her. And I think that is kind of cool. It gives her more bosses and more things to work with. So clearly you see people are not really thinking outside of the box with this remake to begin with for RE4 Remake. That aside, this is Crowbcat's most disliked video of all time. It's really astonishing. And I think this was, you know, seen as one of his L's, the first L's, because this channel, like, generally is positive about the exposés that it does. Like, people like this stuff, the Back 4 Blood versus Left 4 Dead, Dead Rising 4 versus the other games in the series that had those mechanics intact, and Dead Rising 4 just ripped them out. This was different because I think, in comparison to a game that ripped out so much stuff, you could say that RE4 Remake definitely tried to retread its steps for the missing content that was there. It was definitely not on a large degree, a large level, as people saying, oh, they're gonna cut out the island, they're gonna cut out this, they're gonna cut out that, and most of those stages are still pretty much intact. I will move on to everything else, what I personally think about Crowbcat. I think that I really don't like his channel, I'm gonna be honest, because in my honest opinion, I was one of the rare few that thought that Back 4 Blood was an actual good game. I really enjoyed Back 4 Blood, actually. A lot of people shit on it saying it's not Left 4 Dead, it's not this, but I don't echo the same opinions as Crowbcat, and that's what I see his channel as. I think people use that channel as a pariah of saying a certain game is not like the other, therefore it's bad. So it sort of develops a lot of planted seeds or mini Crowbcats, and eventually they echo their opinion out on social media. I don't follow the exact same herd, so I feel like that channel does that a lot. Oh, GTA 5 is inferior to GTA 4. I enjoy both games, therefore I don't fall under that paradigm of having those sort of same hive mind thoughts as Crowbcat. And I think that channel generates a lot of that for the most part. There are times where it is indeed just and right. I'm not saying that the guy does not make terrible, you know, content or whatever. I'm not saying, I actually should rephrase that. I'm not saying he makes terrible content, but I'm saying that I don't follow everything that he does or what type of light he tries to paint some of these games, because I simply disagree. Then he changed the title of the video, and I think he changed it to RE4 is the perfect remake, and then he changed it back to Soul versus Soulless. Clearly this was some sort of damage control to mitigate the blow of the video getting so many dislikes to begin with, or he was just trolling and fucking with people who were in his comment section really roasting it, and he said, you know what, I'm gonna change it to something positive, therefore maybe the dislikes will stop, maybe these people will get off my back. Either way, option A or option B could have been a very stark reality. Maybe it was a mixture of both of these things, where it's like, I kind of want to get the negative comments away, or the influx of people absolutely destroying me off my back, but I also want to harbor and keep my opinion and don't respond to any sort of peer pressure whatsoever. And I can kind of respect it, but at the same time I feel like you should have some sort of indicator as to what the video is about in the first place that you're making. And to scrub it off the internet sort of shows that you might be hiding something, or this might not be your opinion, etc. I feel like those videos, whether good or bad, should stay up so they're fully archived and documented, and if you have further updates going ahead, you can make another video or another follow-up video to those opinions and comments that you get. I feel like those comments, if you like them or don't like them, are always subject to being talked about in another video, and that provides more content for the content creator themselves. Therefore, it's not a bad idea to have all this feedback on the table. So maybe that could have been a golden opportunity to talk in voice and say, hey, this is what I really think of this game. Maybe my points are being misinterpreted here or there, and after my experience, I'm gonna let you guys know what I think. And I think because you're dealing with a creator that really doesn't talk in mic, it's a lot harder to gauge his personality and feelings and things he didn't mean and things that he did mean, because you're talking about a content creator that does no commentary. It's only so much you could say and convey in text, as my friend once taught me. So, should he have deleted the video? Or maybe changed the title or whatever? He didn't delete it, he just changed it. Absolutely not. I think if you have that in history, it should have stayed, and clearly it's still up. But change the title means that you're just either fucking with people, or you don't mean what you say, or you just want to get this heat off real quick and go back to normal, which people will see through, people will not believe. You know how people operate. They have a complex way of thinking, and it's hard to fool everybody when a situation like this happens. Do I think that RE4 Remake is soulless? No. Here's the thing. It is not as campy as the original. It is kind of dark. It does go into this direction. It tries to also enhance some stories here or there, and then there's some things left on the cutting room floor. It is not a perfect remake in my opinion, but as a game, it is a well-functioning game. I pretty much enjoyed the game. Is there things about it that I don't like? You're gonna hear this in my review, but to give a summary, yes, there is things I do not like about the game, but it is more inherently on the gameplay mechanics, like the pairing, where I feel like the pairing is not the answer to avoiding most attacks in that game. I feel like because it's over reliant and they deal with iframes all of the time being sucked away from you, then what happens is you get caught in being stunned by the enemy several times until you're finally dead and you couldn't do anything because Leon can only deal with stuff in front of him. If you're swarmed or anything like that, you're fucked, and this game suffers from that a lot from a gameplay perspective. I didn't call it soulless. I didn't try to demean the actual contents and quality of the game versus the original. I just simply said some of these new gameplay mechanics don't really function or work too well versus the original, and that is kind of a fact. Like, even the original had better iframes than this, but that being said, there are enhancements. You can walk and shoot, and I like that severely. And I also like the fact that they also try to flesh out the characters, whereas Ashley is annoying as a cheese grater in the original RE4. In this one, she feels like a human, she helps. I loved Ashley in this game. It's so much to talk about. It's so much to talk about. But I don't think it's soulless. I think the team did put a large amount of effort into it. Whether it was a success or failure is up to the observer. Obviously, others really think otherwise, and I think that they mostly landed a revamped experience here. There is a lot of game to chew on with RE4, and it comes with the territory. Granted, are there some things that I miss? Yes, but clearly these are things that were minuscule in the grand scheme. This is still a full fat game, and I appreciate that they kept most of the core elements intact versus RE3 Remake. That requires effort, remembering, and a whole shitload of ideas and conceptions that I'm sure came up in the development process for Capcom. So it's one of the better remakes out there. It's not, where should I rank this compared to RE2 Remake? I don't fucking know. I have no idea. RE2 is just like amazing from top to bottom, and so is this game, but definitely it is worth playing, especially for people who are now just getting into the series for the first time. You know, there's always demographics of hardcore and casual. So I even see hardcore people neglecting that because they're not in that bracket, they don't care. It's not Soulless, just revamped with some small lingering issues that really need to be ironed out if they decide to go the route of remaking other action horror titles like RE4 Remake, because I don't want to get stun locked into a corner 5,000 times and I have no way to escape due to the animations at large. That's what I feel. Revamped, fun, could be improved, but is it Soulless? No, not really.